Hi. So there's a couple of different things that I've been meaning to get put together for our YouTube channel, and I wanted to do a little bit of a series of how the tools that we use to get the tickets that we get and to keep track of our itineraries and have the best travel possible. So one of the tools that we've definitely talked about and we really do rely on is our subscription to ExpertFlyer. And I've kept up this subscription. It's about $9 a month for years now, and it has saved me so many misconnects, so many bad seating arrangements, giving me a real insight on which flights to book and whatnot. So I wanted to do a quick tutorial. Today I'm just going to be talking about how to read the flight availability feature, what some of those flight numbers can mean, and basically how to read it to understand what your flights look like, which ones you might want to book, and how to use the seating maps to make your trip better. So let's get to it.
All right, so given how much time I have spent on ExpertFlyer this week trying to figure out my crazy tickets, doing all kinds of stuff from seeing how much availability there was, what other flights there were, what seats there were, I think it's a good time to get into this and to do a quick tutorial on the flight availability feature of ExpertFlyer. So first off, ExpertFlyer is a paid service. It is about $10 a month. I subscribe kind of monthly, so it bills every month, but it's kind of a yearly thing, but it is totally worth it. Sometimes when I'm planning a trip, I'm on this thing like more than daily, sometimes hourly if I'm trying to get some seats to open up. So the main thing people think they're going to get this for is for this awards and upgrades feature, which is something I definitely want to talk about later, but for right now it's timely to be talking about the flight availability feature, which is here, which lets you kind of like open up the codes behind what you might be seeing when you're trying to book a ticket and to use it to your advantage. So let's get into it. So we'll click on flight availability, and then this looks very familiar to us, right? So we have departing airport, arriving, and then you do have an option to select a particular connecting airport. In this case, I think it's timely. Let's look at the types of flights that I've been flying this week. So let's go with Los Angeles, LAX. If you're really fancy, you can put in KLAX, but I'm not. To Johannesburg, okay, JNB. And I don't need to put in a connecting airport because I'm going to tell it to search for just British Airways flights, which is where I ended up on this crazy itinerary instead of going through Hong Kong. And then we'll pick a date. So let's say, just so we have a good selection of things to look at, how about let's make our outbound on the 23rd and our return on the 26th. Those are kind of fake dates, but we're recording a little after the fact, so let's figure this out. You also have the option to ask for plus or minus 1 to 3 days. If you have a little flexibility in what you're doing, you're just curious about how things fill up, this is a good feature, so why don't we go ahead and just do plus 1 and minus 1 day just for fun. Okay, then we're going to scroll on down here and click search. And so what this is going to bring up for us is going to be a screen that shows us, here we go, an array of flights, right? So we can tell that there are a couple connections. We've got BA 280 leaving LAX. There's also this here when you have the parentheses around the AA. This means this is actually an American Airlines metal flight with British Airways using it as a code share essentially. So we can see that there's 2 of those, and I know those are flights like 109, 136, and then BA flies 2 of their planes, so a 747 and a 738 and a 388 on this day. So what this gets you, this is on the one side you have your flight numbers, right? Number of stops, that'll almost always be 0 on this screen unless it's a Fifth Freedom flight. Departure, arrivals with times, dates, type of aircraft. So we have a 747, a 380. This is 77W is the 777-300, and etc. And then the least useful feature here is kind of this frequency reliability. This is like how often it's late. I mean, you're not really going to predict that all that well from there. But what's really interesting and why we're here are all of these numbers and letters over here. So I don't know how much, from the average viewer we have if you know too much about fare codes, but what this is talking about is starting from the beginning, this is the highest, most expensive fare code, all the way down to, on British Airways, I don't want to say the cheapest, but this is a group fare here in G, but O would generally be the cheapest on this international route. So there's a couple ways to look at this for ease of our tutorial here. This is a sample British Airways fare class chart. So F up here being full fare first class, that's going to be insanely expensive, as we know. A being a discounted first, and then Z is if you're buying something with miles, which would be on that other screen. And then on down, J being full fare business class. These are other various classes of business class next here. J through I, and then U is your redemption. World Travel Plus, W, E, and T with P as your award ticket. Y and B and H are full fare or expensive flexible World Traveler, so economy tickets, and then here are your discount economy tickets down here. Things like this exist all over the internet, so you can look and you can see, okay, well, here's also how many percentage of avios or miles we may earn, etc. But for our purposes today, sorry about that, let's just take a sample flight. So this first one here, what's most important to know is that they will never, airlines pick a certain number of seats that they're going to tell you about, basically. So British Airways' maximum number that they will tell you are free is 9. So when we look at this J9 here, there might be 20 business class seats on this flight, but they're willing to sell 9 full fare business class tickets or more. When we look down the line here, we're down to W. This is the full fare premium economy. They're willing to sell 8. So that to me says they only have 8 or fewer in that cabin. It may be fewer because they may be planning on moving some people up to business class if they oversell. But that tells you that it's a fairly full cabin. They're also selling E5. So I do think they have some seats in premium economy. And then they're selling Y9, B9, and then all the way down here to S2. And then if you look at N, Q, and O, those sometimes are time sensitive, so they may not sell you an O or a Q fare, say, outside of 14 days in advance. So that may not be representative of how many seats there are. And then G is a group fare, so it's kind of outside of the normal. So this is kind of an average flight. Looking down the line here, you'll notice that American, this is the code share American flight, they just use the number 7. It doesn't really mean anything. British Airways uses 9, Qatar uses 9, American uses 7. So this flight here has S7, J7, W7. It's a pretty empty flight. Or at least they're willing to sell a lot of seats in any cabin, thinking that they'll move people around. So that's kind of how this goes. You can really get into like a really long explanation of how to handle and understand the different nuances of fare codes. But for just a quick look at a flight, you can say, oh, this is J0F0, but then Y9, this is pretty full in the back or pretty empty in the back and pretty full up front, or vice versa. The other thing to know when you're doing flight availability is if you come over here to the seat icon and click on it, you can pick up to 3 seat maps that you would like to see and get a little more detail on what you're looking for the flight. This can be useful trying to pick your own seats, trying to know, oh, my favorite seat's available, I would like to go grab that. Or like what I do if I get super obsessive is I really want a bulkhead seat. I might check this thing over and over and over again just to see if someone happens to move out of my favorite seat, in which case I can swing in and grab it. It's throwing me an error in Business Club. Not a big deal. We can explain other things here. Okay, so here is the one twist on seat maps. So this British Airways, a couple days out, which this flight is, does a thing called predictive seat map display. So what it's showing here, you see the X's over certain seats and the blue over others, and the white. White means empty. These 2 seats don't have anybody in them. You could go get them if you had a ticket and if you were allowed to pick your seat in advance without paying for it. British Airways is kind of stingy about that. You can only do that if you have a certain status or you're willing to pay for it. Blue means someone's already snagged it. So these are full seats, positively, seat with someone in them. The X's mean 2 different things. The X's either mean it's predictive, so this means British knows that it has sold all but 2 of these seats and it is just filling in the seat map for the computer system, or it's a bassinet seat, which is very likely to be, especially this 33A and K, are likely to have the bassinet that folds down there, and so they will save those for the airport list or for 24 hours in advance for elites to call in and ask for those seats. The other cool thing about ExpertFlyer seat maps is that it's using the technology from SeatGuru. So when I mouse over one of them, it'll pull up, you can see SeatGuru, TripAdvisor, everybody's involved. And and give you kind of this as a yellow seat. Be aware, it's near the bathroom, right? We get it. This will say good review. It's got leg room, right? So it's kind of handy. And so looking here, the economy map will be the same thing. So there's some seats in economy, but they've got a lot of predictive ones blocked out. So this is a fairly full flight. So coming back over to what we've got here, so this is a way you can kind of shop around right on your outbound and on your return and look and see if something looks really sold out in one cabin. Like this one here is only W1 right on the way back. C2 and F3 and Y6. So overall, this is a really packed flight. If you happen to be a main cabin extra, you might be crossing your fingers for an upgrade based on capacity. And for that, we'd want to go here and just have a look and see if anything looks kind of strange. Like looks like there might be a bunch of things up in Club World and not too many in Premium Economy. So yeah, so here, I don't know if this far in advance the predictives really kicked in. It looks to me like it has a little bit here, especially since this one's filled in. But they probably have, 20-some seats available in Club World and Premium Economy, still also a few seats, and Economy. I don't think they put in all of the predictive yet, but looking at those numbers, there might be some chances that there's some cabin rolling going on there. But yeah, so that's kind of the overview. I mean, we could talk a lot about fare classes and what they mean. It is important to know your fare code because it may affect how much you earn on your flight, and that will be a topic for another time. But this is a really useful feature of ExpertFlyer, and I mean, this would be worth a subscription for me alone. Next time we'll do the awards feature, which is why most people get it. But I think that this is kind of an underrated feature, and I think that you can get more out of it than you think. So I hope that was helpful, and I've got to get on another flight, so I will catch you later, but fly well, and hopefully this was helpful.